Donnie and Dolly, the team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Okay, it is Friday. Thomas Drance standing by after his radio shift. Today's guests are brought to you by Langley Chrysler. Don't miss the game because your car needs servicing. Langley Chrysler will pick up, service, and drop off your car so you don't have to miss the action. Valet service only at langleychrysler.com. And I got to say this about driving in the city these days. In the Lower Mainland, Fraser Valley, heads up everybody. I drove out to Chilliwack last night. The fog.
Oh,
wow, it was frightening.
Very frightening. Also very cold, Donnie. It's
30K all the way back home. You wanted to make a correction.
On what?
On a name you mispronounced.
Oh, my buddy, I pronounced his name wrong. It's not Rick and Nickel, it's Knickel.
Okay.
He's a good guy.
Rick Knickel.
Yeah. He's a former NHL goalie, pro scout. He's good.
Yeah.
He just said, Rick, you said my name wrong.
You guys are pretty tight, huh?
Yeah, no, I screw a lot of people's names up, as you well know, even pals.
But Thomas Drance, you have no problem with. He joins us from the Athletic. Canucks defeat the Jets 5-1. They're in Calgary on Saturday. Thomas, fresh off his 6:50 morning shift. He sounded great this morning, wearing a sweater, loving it. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Just have to decline a call, boys. Excuse me.
Oh, wow.
And I'm actually going back to 6:50. I'll be on the Canucks Hour at noon. So you guys are my halftime show. Luckily, in my smart hay-colored sweater, I won't have a Janet Jackson-style wardrobe malfunction. Also, the name Knickel is basically designed for Rick Dollywell to trip over.
It really is.
It just texted me.
Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. There's far too many consonants in that.
Just hold on a sec.
For Dolly.
The K's there, Thomas, for a reason. Come on.
Pronounce it, Dolly.
Yeah, but
it's there to trip you up.
Some K's are silent. Some K's are silent, though, Thomas. You know that.
Especially the ones that are before the letter A. Wait, what?
Let's move on. Move on.
Thomas, your knowledge on the country of Qatar. Anyway.
I know how to pronounce it.
Okay, yeah, not with a K. Canucks over the Jets 5-1. You went down this road, I believe, with JT Miller yesterday. Any connection between his production, 4 points last night, including the hat trick, and the trade rumors?
I don't think so. I mean, more than that. As we're all viewing it through that context because that's the news around JT Miller. You have Larry Brooks, Frank Saravalli, people reporting about the high levels of interest, teams virtually thirsty to acquire this. And why wouldn't they be, right? I mean, this is a guy who can play wing, he can play center. He's become a point-per-game player for the Canucks. He's tough. He brings leadership attributes. I mean, he's everything you'd ever want in a top six forward, maybe even a top line forward, certainly a top line forward for this team. And so, I don't think his production actually changes how the industry views him. The industry really, really likes him. Like he would have been on the U.S. Olympic team. He's a star player in this league right now. And so, but as he's performing, I mean, my Twitter feed's lighting up with Canucks fans being like, yeah, choose your trade value. And, that's the context under which his season is sort of unfolding at this point. And in the meantime, you've got the Canucks, and I do think they have time. I think they're intent on making sure teams potentially bidding know that they have time, that this isn't a deal they have to make. I think they love the player. I think they really like the player. So I don't think there's an inevitability here by any means. This is not you got to unload him at the deadline before his contract expires situation. JT Miller helps the Canucks. He's a really, really good piece. So I just wanted to ask him the question because in the Zoom era, it's not like I know when I'll get a chance to sidle up to a guy and ask them a question, day to day, right? I mean, I might not see him again for 10 days. And as the rumors have heated up, as his name has been tip of the tongue in the Vancouver market and the New York market and the Minnesota market and just across the NHL, I wanted to ask him if, a game like that, a moment like that with his teammates, with this franchise meant anything more to him, considering all the noise surrounding him. And, I appreciated his response. He knowing smirk, suggested that I knew the answer, and then went on to say that he looks forward to playing every game and gave a very professional answer, I thought. But it's the type of question that, in my view, needs to be asked, especially for a player like JT Miller, whose, name is in the news every day, and not because of his on-ice exploits.
Yeah.
Hey, Thomas, the one thing people rarely bring up when it comes to JT Miller is that this is not all about the Canucks. It's also about him. Do you get a sense that he's happy here?
I mean, I don't get the sense that he's unhappy. Do I get the sense that he's happy here? I don't think it's at the level of being an issue. I think it might be tough to re-sign him, considering some of the circumstances, particularly, where the team has trended over the past few years, a variety of things that disadvantage Canadian teams generally in talks with free agents, whether it's tax rates or COVID restrictions. Do I think it's a straightforward deal to make? Not necessarily, but, I don't have any indication that there's any urgency from his side to get out of Dodge by any means. More than that, I'd say with the way that he's handled himself and performed on the ice, you wouldn't ever have any license to suggest that JT Miller hasn't for this franchise every shift he's taken.
Thomas, the Spencer Martin story is really unbelievable. He's been super in the 3 games he's played, just splendid. Obviously, now people want to see him extended, be the backup next year. What are your Halak, the whole situation? What are your thoughts on the goalie situation right now with the Canucks?
It's an interesting one for me, Rick, especially because of the cap ramifications from Halak potentially hitting his bonuses for this franchise, plus the no movement clause that he holds. That's a very complicated situation. And, one thing I'd note is this Canucks team now, as well as they've traded under Bruce Boudreau, they're still at about 12% odds of making the playoffs, according to Dom Luszczyszyn's model, which outperforms the betting markets and is behind our paywall at The Athletic. That's a long shot bid, right? So it's a long shot bid. Are you willing to commit 2022-23 cap space to a backup goaltender when you've got an option in Spencer Martin who looks perfectly serviceable? Or does Martin's performance necessitate some really challenging conversations and potentially some tactful political maneuvering in the week? I'd suggest it should from a tactical standpoint, but I also know that at the end of the day, Halak's in control of the situation. He bargained hard for that no movement clause, and I'll never, ever criticize a player for using what they've bargained for to their advantage and to get what's best for them and their family. That's how these agreements work. That's how personal service agreements work. And so, from a Martin standpoint, one thing, Rick, that's interesting and that I hadn't really realized until I sort of started thinking about it and kicking the tires on it. Since Halak has been out of the lineup and then Demko going under COVID protocol, the club has been able to have Spencer Martin up with the big team under emergency conditions. So he hasn't been a standard recall. He's been a recall under emergency conditions or an emergency loan. And what that means is that no matter what is to happen between now and the end of the season, frankly, even if there were to be a sudden goaltender injury, for example, and he had to play in Calgary on Saturday or stay on the roster for the rest of the year, right until the end, what have you, his waiver clock has not started. Right? He will be waiver exempt when he goes back down. And that's really important because you look just today at the situation that the Buffalo Sabres are handling. Like, you don't think the Buffalo Sabres are claiming Spencer Martin if he hits waivers? They are for sure, 100%. There is a 0% chance that he'd clear at this point. And so because the club used emergency recall device to bring him up to help them get through this COVID shortfall in net, they're protected from that eventuality. And that's important because Spencer Martin has, I think, shown himself to be, baseline competent at the NHL level. I do think there's a ton of value that he brings as a result of that. I think he's honestly earned himself a longer look if the Canucks are able to find a way to give him one. And, I wonder too, if there could be some modest trade value there. I mean, we've seen goaltenders with worse numbers and shallower track records, net assets, as teams look to get some insurance for a long playoff run. Has Martin even entered that conversation? I'm not sure about that yet, but certainly there's some interesting options on the table, and that's well earned by a goaltender who's come in after a 5-year gap of NHL action and, I think blown everyone's socks off, really shown that he's an NHL caliber puck stopper, or at least potentially a backup option for an NHL team.
Yeah, Thomas, just a great story, Spencer Martin. Really, that's what you love about sports is when guys do that.
Yeah.
9 years after drafted, he wins his first NHL game. Hey, Thomas,
Incredible.
were you interviewed by the Aquilini family and Jim Rutherford in the past week?
I interviewed Jim Rutherford in the past week, but no, I unfortunately didn't make it onto the long or the short list.
Okay, because I'm just saying.
Oh, I don't know. I think his bone structure is far better. His bone structure is better than mine, and Rick, so's his eye for talent.
Canuck fans hope so.
Someone said he's a good-looking chap. You know what? He's a good-looking guy, and that's why I don't think, anyways.
And he also picks his friends better than I do, Rick. He picked Jim Rutherford, and that's worked out for him. I've picked you, and here we are. I'm being compared to another bald guy for the 18th week in a row. Love it.
And Thomas, all we ever get is grief on Twitter. We're idiots. That's all we get.
In this case, though, I'm not sure the Twitterati is incorrect.
Anyways,
Patrick Alvin can't pull off that sweater like you get. That color is very in. My kids are wearing that color these days.
Very nice color, Thomas.
Yeah. You're pulling it off.
Thank you. I'm also very fond these days, and this is how I know I'm in my mid-30s now, Donnie. I'm also very fond these days of a color called Sierra.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like a burnt orange. See it around. It's a nice Vancouver color.
You're in your 30s?
Oh, yeah. Ryan knows about that. He's
How dare you, Rick?
Okay.
How dare you, Rick?
Well, we're dinosaurs, the both of us, but you're in your 30s?
No, I'm the dinosaur.
Yeah.
No, we're both dinosaurs.
Well, Rick, I'll give you a nickel for your thoughts. How about that?
Beautiful. That's how we'll end it. Thanks for this, Thomas. Good luck with everything. Radio show, whatever else you got going on. Sweater wearing, you name it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good weekend.